Hello, and welcome back to Why We Believe.
So today we're going to be hearing from Maddie. She's going to be sharing her testimony, sharing the journey that she's been on, and why she believes in Jesus. So we started going out five and a bit years ago. But fair to say you weren't really a Christian then, is that fair?
I think that's definitely true. I went to church every Sunday, was sort of brought up in a Christian family, and that's kind of what we did. But to be honest, I absolutely hated it. I just used to sit there at church on my phone, not listening, not standing up when they sung or anything like that. I really just couldn't be bothered. And I just thought that if God was real, great. If he wasn't, great. I didn't think it had any impact on my life at all. And to be honest, I played football for 8 years, and I used to have to wake up early on a Saturday morning to travel to games. And I realised, I just wanted to be with my friends. I wanted to, be able to sleep in for once in my life. And that's maybe why I'm so good at it now. But I think there was definitely something missing in my life, and I was looking for acceptance, for significance and security. And I realised that there was something missing in my life, and I realised that there must be something more than just, about winning a football match or doing well in school. But I hadn't really grasped what that was yet.
So you were 14, 15. There was something missing. You were like, what's my meaning? What's the purpose? I was looking for significance. Could you not find that? Because you were part of football, obviously part of school.
Yeah, I think I'm a very, very competitive person, and football, it was a lot of heart and emotion that went into it. And I think if I got a good result, it would affect the rest of my week. And so if we did well, if we won, then great, I'd feel happy for the rest of the week. But I realized, that feeling of happiness was really dependent on whether I won or I lost. And so it was really just a fleeting feeling. And I mean, even at school as well, I tried to find my acceptance in my peers. I mean, I think that's the story of anyone in high school. You're trying to fit in. And so but ultimately that was fleeting, and, not everyone liked me. And so I just felt a little bit lost. And even in my grades, for example, as well.
So you were in a bit of a weird situation in that you thought church is not for you.
Mm-hmm.
There was no relevance there. But then everything you were doing just wasn't giving you meaning, or there was something missing.
Yeah.
Where are you now?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's changed my life. It's transformed, since I was sort of a 15-year-old completely trying to, run away from God and wasn't really bothered at all, to kind of now a 20-year-old who has found this absolute secure joy in Jesus. And I found that purely knowing that, I'm accepted, secure and significant in him. I found that the world could only provide us instant gratification. But in Jesus, we have ultimate satisfaction, because we realize that, it's not about us being good enough for God, because we're going to fail and we're going to fall short. But it's about what God has done for us. And I know that he loves me so unconditionally that he would die for every human. And it just was amazing news. And, it was a journey, and I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more about how I came to this conclusion. But from a 15-year-old to the 20-year-old, there's this joy that is just amazing. It's transformed my life.
So we've talked a little bit about how you were sort of not wanting anything to do with God, and to how you are. Can you just tell us a bit more about your journey? What happened?
Yeah, so I think at the age of around 14/15, I completely just left church and really just didn't look back. My parents had this kind of thing that me and my elder brother, we were like, once we turned the age of 16, that we could kind of decide whether we wanted to come with them or not, or just stay at home. But I think I got to the age of kind of 15, early 15, just turned 15. And my parents had enough, basically. They were forcing me to come along, and it was causing loads of friction, loads of arguments. And so they decided, no, don't worry, you don't have to come. And obviously I was like, yes, get in. But I really just didn't look back. I thought, as I've said before, that Jesus was irrelevant to my life. I thought Christianity was about rules and regulations. And then if you follow these rules and you pass the test, then you get a ticket into heaven, and that was really it. And so I wasn't bothered, and I didn't care. And so I ran away from God completely and really just didn't look back.
So this running away from God, that I guess would have looked like not being bothered with church, not going, I presume you weren't praying or anything like that. So what happened? How did things turn around? Was it an overnight thing? Yeah.
No, definitely not overnight. It was a journey of many, many years. And it was really actually this kind of time when I was kind of leaving church that we first started going out. Of course, classic science class, you gotta love that. But I remember the first time we met up, and you showed me this video or something about how the heavens and the sky and space declared the glory of God, and how it pointed to a creator God. And I was like, what have I got myself into?
You just weren't that interested, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, in you, yes, but not in Christianity at all. So it really was a journey, and I asked you, questions here and there, and you did a good job at answering them, but it didn't affect my heart at all. I really couldn't care less. I still didn't really have a grasp on Jesus and who he was and what Christianity was. And so really a significant point was around the age of 17, when completely out of the blue, actually, I randomly stumbled across this podcast from a pastor in America called Levi Lusko. I know, quite a cool name. And he's a pastor of Fresh Life Church in America. And I remember I just stumbled across one of his videos, and I thought, what's the harm? I've got some free time, I'll listen to him. And I remember he explained the gospel, so the good news of Jesus, as not a ceremony for halo polishing, but an emergency room for life saving. And that flicked a switch, that statement. And then he explained sort of later on in his sermon and his preach, he explained that we all had fallen short of the glory of God, and that actually following Jesus was about a relationship, knowing that we were broken human beings. And I mean, we can all tell at the moment that, we are broken. And it wasn't about following these rules either. It was an actual relationship. It's about what Jesus had done for us, how he'd died on the cross for us, and how that he wanted us to come into a relationship with him. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something unique to Christianity, isn't it? That we believe in a God who would come down to earth to experience life with us. He experienced suffering.
Yeah.
He was killed. So the turning point was realizing that it wasn't a whole list of rules. That's what you'd thought. That's why you'd left the church. But it was just about a guy. It was just about Jesus. So if it's not rules, then what is it about?
Well, yeah, like I said, it is this relationship with Jesus. It's this relationship with God, who's not aloof. He's not far off from us. That in fact, he actually came down and lived a human life. That God in flesh, 100% human, but 100% God, that he would come down and he experienced a human life. And so he knew what it was like to suffer. He knew what it was like to rejoice. But he also, one of kind of my, favorite verses, and I remember reading this, and it literally is one of the shortest verses in the Bible, I think. And it says, Jesus wept. And I remember just thinking that and being like, wow, this is a God who has experienced our pain and suffering. And this is someone that I can follow, who would lay down his life for us.
Great, yeah. So we've heard how you're a bit more open-minded. This was going through sixth form. You're starting to question things more seriously. And then you joined university. And how was that?
Yeah, so I joined university, and I heard that the Christian Union on campus was doing some events, and they were having some free food. And of course, as a massive foodie, I thought, go along, especially as a student on a budget. I thought it'd be great. So I went along, but it changed my life because it wasn't just about the food, even though that was pretty good as well. But I found students, people my age, who absolutely loved Jesus and had a life-giving and breathing relationship with him, that they didn't find their satisfaction and acceptance in the world around them, their grades at all. They found it in Jesus and what he had done for them. They were just, they just had this overflow of just joy and love and peace. And I realized that there was something different about Jesus. And so one of my friends that I got to know invited me along to a church. And I remember I really just got involved and got stuck in and just heard more about Jesus and how that Jesus was all about relationship, that he wasn't about these rules and regulations, about doing enough good, to get this ticket into heaven, but it was purely a relationship. I realized that Jesus was real, but it still took me time to understand everything and to know him more, but it was the start to the journey at least.
Yeah, so we've heard how you were that 14, 15-year-old that just couldn't be bothered, it wasn't relevant to your life, and then going through sixth form, you were more open-minded, you heard that sermon. Starting university, you saw people your own age, and it became a lot more real to you. Would you have classed yourself as a Christian then, or how did things continue?
Yeah, so I think one really significant point for me was on March the 6th, 2019. It was a great day. It's when I decided to get baptized, to publicly declare my faith in Jesus and to tell others what he'd done for me. And it was just an amazing night sharing my testimony. And later on, we sung a couple of songs. And we sung this song called This Is Our God by Hillsong. Great song. So make sure you search it up after this podcast. And the lyrics go, freely he gave it all for us, surrendered his life upon the cross. Great is his love that was poured out for us. This is our God. And I remember thinking as we sang that song, wow, it's amazing that, God is not far off, that he's not aloof, he's not in a distance, that he came down to save us and to have a relationship, and he gave it all for us.
Yeah, so what Maddie was talking about Jesus coming, about Jesus dying for us, that wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. Romans chapter 5, verse 8, so that's in the Bible. It says, God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died. And I find that just such an encouraging verse. So looking back over the last 5 years or so, you've been on quite an adventure. So what do you think you've learned from this journey?
Yeah, I mean, the power of hindsight, hey. But I think I've learned so much. I think looking back at sort of my 15-year-old self, I realized that even though I tried to run away from God, that he was there throughout my whole of my life and with open arms wanted me to come back into relationship with him. And, I learned that it's not about these rules and these regulations, as I've said before. It's about this relationship. It's a living and breathing relationship that God would pay it all for us. And, there's this verse in the Bible in 2 Corinthians 12:9, which I actually shared at my baptism, which says, therefore I boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. And, that's just an amazing verse to know that it's not about anything that we've done, but it's ultimately about Jesus and what he's done for us on the cross. And I realized that, Jesus is a firm foundation to stand upon, that he never leaves us or forsakes us, and that he's with us every step of the way in our lives, through ups and downs. And really, I just look to the person of Jesus and just to base my life on him, because he's such a good God. So this is what I've found throughout my journey, is this unfailing hope. I found mine in Jesus. So I want to pose you this question. Have you found hope yet? Because hope matters.
So, thank you for listening to Why We Believe.
We will be back next week with another podcast. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram at whywebelieve_. We'll see you next week.